Hello and welcome to France 24's weekly music show. I'm Audrey Hash. Now, if you're a fan of voices like Joni Mitchell's, as well as Irish sass based in Parisian jazz, then we've got just the woman for you.
Wait, and my God, you wouldn't leave, so you stay. Lie back and watch me swim against currents. I'll wear the bathing suit bought for good weather, and you'll sit back and watch me drown from a bed of fluffy lilac heather.
Liv Monaghan is my guest, and she's going to be telling us all about her new and incredibly delicate album, First Light. Thank you for being with me in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. But before we delve into your new record, we need to discuss a big comeback, that of Lenny Kravitz. Now, he's just turned 60 at the weekend and dropped his 12th studio album, Blue Electric Light. Some of you may remember the first single, which was called T421, for which Lenny was very generous, visually speaking, sharing glimpses of his body and his Parisian flat. You might be surprised to hear that Lenny decided to take notes from daughter actress Zoe Kravitz and be a bit more modest when it came to sharing his actual thoughts and people-pleasing. In any case, a lot of this album draws on inspiration from Prince's sound. Here's his latest music video, Human. Lenny Kravitz there. Now, Liv, you might know this. Lemmy grew up in a very musical-friendly household, and he had the likes of Miles Davis, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, and Duke Ellington, who apparently even played Happy Birthday at his 5th birthday party. Can you imagine, as a jazz musician yourself, growing up in such a surrounding?
The dream. That is just the dream. I didn't know that about him, and just imagining that for myself, I'm getting a little bit envious. That's incredible. And funnily enough, Lenny Kravitz, oh la la, sorry, Kravitz. That tells you how much I know about him. Sorry, Lenny. We were in the same Rolling Stones France playlist over the weekend, so I was thrilled.
So you're getting closer to him every day.
I'll finally get his name right one of these days.
What kind of music did you grow up around?
I was actually very exposed to classical music growing up. I listened to loads of ballet music. And I sometimes joke with people that the Russian ballerinas brought me up, because we had old tape recordings that my mother would put into the tape recorder and let me watch. So I was really exposed to all of this classical music. And I started studying classical music from a pretty young age. So that was my original baptism, actually.
That's amazing. But you really feel the delicate side of classical music actually coming into your own style. Now, you've just released your second album. Congratulations. It's called First Light. And we're going to take a look at the music video for the title track.
Fly to the moonlight to dream of bird flight. The freedom calls to fly a roadless way. Mystery leads us astray. Deep midnight thoughts of dream daylights. The cage calling.
Beautiful track taken from First Light, your new and second album. Liv Monaghan, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're Irish. When did you move to France, and what drew you to this country, which has been a hotbed for jazz historically?
So I got here over 10 years ago. I originally came actually to do further study, and I'm still here. That's often people's story. But the reason actually why I'm still here is because of music. So it was the music that, attracted me, and I met the most wonderful musicians here. And there's, I love jazz. I mean, the record isn't entirely jazz based, but there's a lot of jazz in it. I think I move a little bit further away from jazz actually as I grow musically. But that it was that it still is what keeps me in France and in Paris specifically, is this wonderful legacy that you can still tap into today.
Yeah, no, you're looking yourself very spring-like with your hair piece with you know, her. And also actually this new album is very summery. There's lots of reference, you know, to it, summer rain, July. You hear a lot of birds and references to birds in this new record. Now people who are watching us from the Northern Hemisphere have probably noticed that the birds are very active right now. Yeah. How much inspiration did they actually provide for your music?
Oh, I love birds so much. I love nature. I love animals. I think they're great company. And I don't know enough about birds. I'd love to actually be able to understand all of their, you know, their singing and be able to recognize them. I can recognize a few. But yeah, I really like, I think Brazilians are really good for doing this in their music. They incorporate a lot of bird song and imitation. And yeah, I think that's, if that answers it, I'm not sure.
No, the attraction to birds and the summer feel to this new record. You mentioned Brazilian music and also your music actually leaving jazz completely, because you do have sounds that are very flamenco in this new record, but also I'm thinking traditional folk Irish style. Like I've noticed a few of the tracks, particularly one called Living Beat, which really made me feel very close to Celtic music. How much does that background play into your current music?
I think it's more and more, you know, what I said about like almost leaving jazz a little bit. I love the old jazz standards and I still sing them, but I've just felt this natural pull towards my Celtic roots, and it becomes more apparent all the time, like Living Beat definitely, and just the content, I think, of that song came from a place where I, you know, really want to explore more of that folky, old Celtic world. I think that ties into the nature as well, and my fascination with birds and animals, and that runs throughout the record.
Oh, interesting. Well, you also mentioned meeting fabulous musicians here in France, and you now perform as a trio. You've got a few dates coming up in Paris for the moment next month. Tell us a little bit about what to expect live.
Oh, well, yeah, it's I love performing with these guys. They're mostly guys. Sometimes we have some wonderful women playing with us too, so it's quite fluid. The jazz world, that's another thing I love, is that it's so based on improvisation. And sometimes, you know, we're getting on stage and we might not always have had time to rehearse, you know, and that's kind of the beauty of it, that keeps it fresh. So I would say expect fresh and expect to be maybe surprised. And yeah, I love that. That's one thing I'll never leave behind in jazz, is that element of improvisation and surprise. And expect it to be feminine, even though there'll be boys with me. It's a feminine kind of a world that we create.
Yeah, and storytelling is a big part, which has come from the Celtic side as a little bit as well. I heard you describe everyday scenes sometimes. Yeah, is that a natural knack you have, or is that something you've cultivated?
I love that. I think, you know, that's definitely something, you know that too, our Celtic genes, like, you know, the Scottish have the most beautiful folk songs that we have robbed, as, you know, the Irish have kind of taken ownership of them. So I think that's in our blood, you know. And I don't know, maybe it's something that I've leaned more into, but I can't take responsibility for the song Summer Rain, because I think that's Sava, my bass player's song. Okay. And I think he has these beautiful everyday scenes in that song, and they're very ordinary. And he's not at all Celtic. But yeah, I don't know if it's something I've cultivated or if it's just something I'm leaning a bit more and more into.
Well, I hope you have fun exploring more of that new tangent. How about we take a look at some other new releases that have just come out. And we're going to start off with a man who's actually also a very good storyteller. His name is Willie Nelson. He's 91. He's a living country legend. And he has just released a 75th studio album entitled The Border, which features covers and 4 original songs. Here's his take on Sean Comp and Monty Holmes' track, Made in Texas, which highlights his great guitar playing and storytelling.
Stetson hats and the earnest tub we trust. You can always tell a Texan, but you can't tell him much. It's the biggest little place in the USA. Everybody knows I'm here to stay. It's home sweet home, and I'm proud to say that I'm made in Texas.
taken from Willie Nelson's new album. And he's also announced that he will be releasing next November a cannabis-infused recipe book, which he co-wrote with his wife, Willie and Annie Nelson's cannabis book. Now, I don't think we need to remind our viewers that recreational cannabis consumption is still illegal in most countries. But Liv, I was wondering, I don't know if you're a good chef or like writing recipes, but if you could write a book, what kind of book would you write?
Oh, I don't think I'd be very good at writing a cookbook. But I don't know, maybe, fair play to them, by the way, that's fantastic. Maybe, I mean, it sounds a bit boring, but I do love poetry. So like, I could imagine myself going down that route, or I don't know, like maybe sometimes I have to laugh at the everyday experiences of, you know, gigs that we do and the strange things that go on. And the music world is such a wealth, right, of strange stories and anecdotes that
I feel like the worse the story, less people think it's made up, but it's the real reality.
Absolutely. I live for that. I live for, you know, trying to find material. So maybe a book like that, I don't know. I'm not being very specific here.
That would be good. We'll have to wait for the book to come out to hear those stories. Well, Liv, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for because the France 24 news bulletin is coming up in just a few seconds. Reminder to check out her album First Light, which has just come out. And we're going to be playing out with an artist who has found inspiration in antique Greece, Natasha Khan. She's back with a new record entitled The Dream of Delphi, which comes out this week and explores her concept of birth after she had a child 4 years ago during the year of the COVID-19 pandemic. Here's her latest video, At Your Feet.